suggestions for this?
Turned off the screen?
No.
Okay, so November and I are narrating together, and we discussed briefly also within thought the idea. But it's obvious, as we were just discussing yesterday and this morning, maybe even the name of the term might change, but the idea behind it, we'll see. So we, discussing constituencies, we came up with at this moment, with the term de-professionalization. And this is basically looking at what we first started discussing as constituencies within SALT, and with this grander approach in Internationale, we kind of started doubting the way we approach constituencies. And so I will start with the basic story of what has happened at SALT, and then November will take on from there.
I just mentioned the images are just reference images we felt somehow were appropriate, and the first two are from The Age of Earthquakes, the book by Hans-Ulrike Priest, and the others are just off the internet.
Okay, so here it is. And we'll read because it's going to be easy, hopefully, to manage the time zone. Even before its physical inauguration, in its most desirable form.
Can you?
Are you listening?
No.
Okay, so I'll try louder. Even before its physical inauguration, in its most desirable form, SALT was imagined as a porous conversational tool that would find ways to facilitate responses from and engage in peer-to-peer dialogue with those not on its official payroll. This hypothetical imaginary was maintained at least in intent, and SALT launched with an open attitude towards becoming and remaining an accessible institution. It is now, as we strive to re-embrace this topic, we can use it as a means to look back, identify, and express the institution's varied practices. Throughout its nearly 5-year existence, the institution has discussed and to an extent implemented ways in which it accepted, enabled, or supported varied uses of their facilities in extracurricular programs. Some of these are clearly configured and definable attempts to deal with these concerns, such as SALT's hosting of others initiatives, including Gastronomica, which was a food research group, Slow Food, which helped us with the small garden on the top floor of SALT Beyoğlu, the School of Urgency, first initiated by Ahmet, and Robinson Crusoe 389, which has been the main bookshop in Istanbul, which would have to close down their primary shop due to the financial difficulties they were facing. Furthermore, SALT sought to become a platform where individuals outside of the common context of academia and art were traced to speak to a wider public. Examples can be discussed that include work with Baron von Plastic. This is the name of a blogger. He is, in fact, a very talented critic, but he's not from any of the circles that we have known, but we invited him once to give a talk, and then he's remained someone who has become a user to, critiquing us, but at the same time giving us other feedback, even some archive records that we apparently wrote wrong, and he kind of figured. And I will give you after lunch some Turkish delights from Baron von Plastic, because yesterday he came to SALT, he gave me a magazine that he thinks I should read during my research for the upcoming exhibition, and next to it he bought the most delicious Turkish delights available in Istanbul, Hacı Bekir. And we ran a program that was called 90, which was made possible through the participation of a multivariate set of speakers, including engineers and botanists that we sought to find and made them speak. Some acquaintances mutated into unexpected commissions along the way, There's a group called What About? They're a young architecture group. They wanted to run workshops on their own without tutors, and we made the space available. And then they ended up becoming one of the most important contributors to the summer homes exhibitions I did last year. And the same thing happened with a group of dancers, Erinç Aslanboğa, Natalie Heller, and Bahar Kemiz, who later worked with November on Century of Centuries. Also on an invisible layer, SALT prolonged collaborations by inviting individuals to offer new publications and sometimes archives to be acquired by the institution, viewing them as indirect contributors to the institution's knowledge-making practices. This is very simple. We have an open list, not to everyone, and that's maybe what we're trying to discuss today, but this open list is for people to put in the kind of publications they think they need that they can read through SALT research. So we even made a huge list of our constituents. We reviewed this so-called list of our constituencies and asked these questions, and we simply answered these questions. And these questions are, do constituencies work from the inside or outside? And we said rather both, because it seems like even within the institution there are these different tensions that should maybe turn into something more creative. Can they work in hierarchic and departmental structures? And this was, we said, not effectively. This is not possible for them to work. Could there be a return to, I don't know if this is a return, but could there be a return to passion-built rather than professional-built models? And this is kind of the question that we're asking with this term at this moment, which is called de-professionalization. Are constituencies part of decision making? If yes, when? If no, can they be? And we think this not in this world yet. They're not part of decision making, not today. And how can an institution begin to think of itself as one constituency within others? Maybe this is the question that it really relates to Internationale also on another level, and we don't have an answer for this. I don't know. We need to discuss it. It works within here also. This basic review of the current situation hints at the potential for deceiving arguments. In a freshly defined world of constituencies and cultural institutions, it seems to us that, because this, we also fear that this is a very useful tool. For the reasons, this might become a tool. First, the cultural institution will potentially gain more than it's offering. And this, if we define constituencies and start working with them. Second, the cultural institution will more likely remain the owner and the decision maker, and this is what we're trying to break today. And the third, the cultural institution will have opportunity to exploit what it does not call professional. And here is why.
So this is where we kind of discuss our term de-professionalization. So cultural institutions are composed by the oftentimes contradictory requirements to be a place of knowledge production through programs, to ensure public relations through visibility and audience numbers, to adhere to financial means, revenue and support, and to have a local and relational agenda, political stance. Within this embodiment, professionalized cycles dictate a way of life and nurture a professional language and a systematic construction of daily production. While the creation and implementation of a particular language or voice helps to define the attitude and position of an institutional model, they are also put in place to open a clear path for communication. Just as working structures are there for efficiency in terms of time, finances, and project realization. However, the longer these practices are active, the stricter the rules become. Rules and regulations create homogenized processes. In order to allow for all potential transformative steps, institutions must step back from professional drives and open themselves for unanticipated encounters and knowledge resources. A remapping is required, one that considers a more open playing field where anyone with specialized knowledge and good ideas, rather than professional status, can act as a conduit for imagining a different future. The task is to denaturalize institutions' presumed authority, or at least to understand that it is only a presumption to be reasoned and disputed. So talking from our experience, we think that constituents and constituencies are individuals. And now we have to rediscuss this term. Through thinking about the term constituencies and whether it is the appropriate one for the scenario we are talking about, we actually began to think about an evolutionary pattern of how the institution can be built from within and without, whereby the understanding of a public becomes an audience, who become users, who can be understood within or as a constituency, but with the aim to enable an organic economy of exchange and reciprocation that leads towards a future network of practicing and reciprocating individuals that just are and are unnamed by the institution. So the idea is the public becomes audience, becomes user, becomes constituency, practicing individual, and ultimately they are individuals. They should not be named. And so through this thinking, we kind of put together a charter that sort of attempts to illustrate our thinking now about how practicing individuals might take lead in an organically enabling environment of de-professionalization. And please, take that this charter is really sort of the idea in a best case scenario where we would actually have the opportunity to kind of completely transform the institution, how some things could work. So firstly, 1, moments of exchange take place with individuals. 2, constituents can only be thought of as reciprocating individuals. 3, one individual with one good question is capable of transforming one grand institution. Listen. 4, acknowledged constituencies are not respected simply because they can be framed as a group of people with similar sensibilities. Individuals are empowered independently. Groups emerge through shared meaning and can shift and regroup at any time. 5, individuals and groups invited by the institution are collaborators. Never target existing groups and frame them as constituencies for institutional benefit. 6, constituencies are not to be searched for. They make themselves visible when it's time for them to take their stand. 7, do not pretend to be open to critique in order to open access and responsiveness. If there are sincere questions, the answers should be forthcoming. Managing focus groups and steering responses only reinforces hierarchy. 8, constituencies come from inside as well as outside. Not all employees of one institution share similar ideas about that institution. Ask around. 9, test and enlarge boundaries by allowing the insiders to act in your opposition. 10, get ready to shift around in the office. Don't conform to a job title and description just because it exists. Avoid its constraints, embrace its ambivalence. 11, accept that it is time to denaturalize the institution's presumed authority, or at least understand that it is only a presumption to be reasoned and disputed. 12, the institution does not perform in the present time. Hence, its constituents cannot only be considered in the present. Rather, they should be imagined across time, all locked into one singularity. Do not timestamp constituencies. 13, apply ethical measures for true acceptance of outsiders' input. Do not resort to paying one and not the other. 14, remember, culture is neither owned through nor produced by degrees. 15, only 2. Remember, the point is not to interpret the world, but to be in it and accept the consequences of co-ownership in order to turn ownership over when the time comes. And 16, beware, don't call people names. Defining terminology has the immediate power of turning potential practice into corporate agenda. And so stigmergy is something that actually maybe is another term that we would want to, could have used or thought about. I'm sure most of you are aware of stigmergy is the term used normally in thinking about how insects build nests or how they interact with one another. I can just read out a brief description. So stigmergic systems are a mechanism of indirect coordination between agents or actors. The principle is that the trace left in the environment by an action stimulates the performance of a next action by the same or a different agent. In that way, subsequent actions tend to reinforce and build on each other, leading to the spontaneous emergence of coherent, apparently systematic activity. Stigmergy is a form of self-organization.
So we think we will look into this also a bit more, maybe to finalize in general the term, and we don't know if we will stick with the term, but the idea I think is obvious on the institution side that you need to at least make sure what you're doing is not kind of branded almost in this idea of constituents and how far you need to go to really make it happen, to be aware of it. That was the main idea. And I think we're under 20 minutes. I don't know, I didn't check, but this is...
Is it bonus points?
Yeah. She read really quickly.
Yeah, sorry.